The Shulchan Aruch writes an interesting halacha. En lashin isa bechalav shema yavo leochla im basar. One is not allowed to make bread with milk. You're not allowed to make a dairy bread. That's prohibited. Chachamim didn't allow it because bread is always ate together with milk or with meat. And therefore, one would take that bread, he would not know it's a dairy bread, and he would eat it with meat. And Chachamim saw that this could be a common problem. Therefore, they said, you're not allowed to make a dairy bread. Not only dairy bread, the Mefarshim explains also a meat bread one is not allowed to make. And therefore, the halacha comes and says, En lashim isa bechalav, you're not allowed to put milk in the dough when making the bread, shema yavo leochla im basar, because you might come to eat it with meat. It's so much restricted that if one made such a bread, that bread becomes asur, one is not allowed to eat it, even by itself. It becomes just like an item that's asur. Just like you're eating davar asur, this is the same thing. This becomes completely forbidden. Therefore, the Shulchan Aruch says, V'imlash, if one did it, kol hapat asur, afilu leochla levada. You're not allowed to eat it even by itself. Even if a person did it by mistake, he didn't know he made a mistake, such a thing would be not allowed to use. The question is, does this apply only to bread or also for other things? Like, for instance, a person makes burekas, a person makes all kind of other cookies and cakes. He puts in there also milk. Such a thing would be allowed, or is it also such a thing is prohibited? That's a big machloket. We found a big machloket in that. The Chida says the following: Mekomot na'agu la'asot burekas sheyesh b'hem memulaim basar. You're not even allowed to put the meat inside the burekas. He says, יש ממולאים ירק ויש ממולאים גבינה. המנהג על הרוב לעשות את של גבינה בשינוי, צריך להזהיר על זה. He says that there are places that make those burekas with meat. Not even the dough, putting meat inside or putting cheese inside would be prohibited. One is not allowed to do such a thing, says the Chida. And therefore, we need to know that if we make in such a thing, we need to make a special shape to the burekas in order to differentiate between burekas that's meat and that's cheese. And therefore, it's brought down that in Yerushalayim, they used to make the milk burekas, the dairy burekas, always triangle, and the meat burekas, square. Now, they're not makpid on this so much. We need to know what's the heter for that. But the Chida says one has to be makpid, make sure that such a burekas would have a special shape that each one that buys that burekas would know this is a cheese and this is meat. Sdei Chemed argued on the Chida and said no, it's not necessary. Why not? Because it's very easy to find what's inside that burekas. A person opens up the burekas, he sees right away. So therefore, the restriction that the Chida said doesn't apply. It's not al pi halacha. One doesn't need to go that extra mile and do it. Rather, you can make a burekas however you want, and when a person eats it, he would look inside, and that would be good. But the Poskim say, what if it's not inside? As we explained before, it's part of the dough, then one needs to be careful. You need to know, is that mutar or asur? If one makes something that normally is done pav, and you make it today dairy, that such a thing is not allowed la'alacha. Why? Let's say kake, person makes kak, person makes rugalach. Such things normally, they're not dairy, and therefore, one that eats them right together with meat or right after eating meat. He doesn't think twice. You take a cock and you eat it right away. If one makes this dairy, that's problematic, and therefore, the only heter to do such a thing is if a person makes it with a special shape that the one comes to eat it sees, ooh, why is this in such a special shape? Gotta be that this was made dairy, or for a different reason, you'll find out. Another thing that would be allowed to do is if one makes it just a one-time meal. He makes enough just for a one-time meal. He makes a small piece of bread for one meal. So therefore, as soon as he made it, he eats it, he finishes it right away. According to the Ramah, it's more lenient. One could make for the whole day. one piece of bread for the whole day. So that's much larger. And not only that, he can make for the whole family. So therefore, one is making a big piece of bread for the whole family that could finish it in 1 day. 1 day worth would be allowed. But according to Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't say that. The Sfaradim has to be machmir. Only for that meal, you're eating that amount that's enough for 1 meal and not more than that. So we have over here few restrictions before we come to do our food for Shavuot, for any other day. One needs to know when is it mutar, when is it asur to do such bread or cookies or cake and put in the milk. If it's something that's normally not done, one is not allowed to do such a thing, because a person eating that cake would not think that this cake is milk cake. And not only that, if a person wants to eat such bread that is made dairy, he needs to know that according to the Shulchan Aruch, according to Sfaradim, he's only allowed to make enough just for 1 meal.